Hello.
Hello, is this Nina?
It is. How are you today?
I'm excellent. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. So how does this work?
Well, we will ask you some questions, and you can say whatever you like, and we'll go on with the day.
Fantastic. Well, sounds like a lovely plan. You have my permission to record this conversation.
Okay. I'll introduce you to my co-host, Ton.
Hey there, how you doing, Nina?
I finally said, you said Todd?
It's ton, actually, like 2,000 pounds.
Got it. Hello, Tom.
Yeah, how you doing? I'm glad to have you on the line, and if you're ready to go, we'll get started.
Absolutely. I know I got a half hour later than you would have preferred, so let's get this puppy started.
All right, sounds good. Well, yeah, if you can, tell us a bit about how you got into the adult film industry.
I got in 1984. I had been a dancer for 2 years while I was attending nursing school, and I tried several different avenues in, and I thought, that's not going to work, I'm not meeting the right people, and then I did. And my dead husband did. And he sent her pictures, she called us up, and she put me in the movie she was directing, and the rest, as they say, is history. But the most important thing is, before that first movie, I had been wanting to be in adult entertainment for about, for over 5 years at that time. So it wasn't like one day I woke up and said, I think I'll do this. I really had thought about it a long time, investigated it a long time, done the soul searching, and knew that I did want to do this. So that's why it's now, I just finished my 31st year in the business, and I'm now into my 32nd year.
Yeah, and when you started around that time, it was kind of an interesting time when VCRs were kind of coming into vogue, and you
got it, absolutely.
Yeah, what were your memories of that kind of transition in the business at that time?
Well, when I came in the business, because video had just started to become a thing, I never really did much of the shot on film. I've done probably fewer than 10 shot on film projects my entire career, maybe 15 if you count the loops. So for me, it was always about video. And video, from the very beginning, made it possible to shoot movies in a shorter amount of time for less money. The technology was very primitive, because film, you really have to worry about lighting. But early video, it was really, really brutal because cameras were monster heavy, and you couldn't wear black because that turned into a hole, couldn't wear white because that blew out the screen, couldn't wear red or orange because that bled, couldn't wear stripes or ducks because that bled. So there's a lot of purple, a lot of blue, a lot of yellow in the 80s.
And kind of throughout your career, it seems like you were always really outspoken and defending the business. Was that just something natural for you, or how did you kind of wind up in that role within the business?
I come from a long line of political activists going back to my grandparents in Alabama, who fought. My grandfather fought for the release of the Scottsboro Boys. And so activism, political awareness, left of center political awareness and activism goes back to my family to the 30s. So it was just natural because I'm 56 years old, and so I graduated college in 1977, and the porn wars had not yet started, and organizations like the National Organization for Women at that time were still very, not only were they pro reproductive rights, of course, they were pro prostitution rights, and they were very into helping women understand their bodies, get the mirror out, learn to take responsibility for your orgasm. Really just helping, the idea was to help women empower themselves by reclaiming their bodies, and part of reclaiming your body is A, demedicalizing the birthing experience, and B, radicalizing the sexual experience, i.e. pleasure for women too. Everybody gets to have an orgasm, yay! And that made a big impression on me. And so for me, speaking about porn, there's a political aspect of it. Are there laws against it? Is it illegal to make or not make? Are we harassed by the police or not? Because we were harassed by the police down here in the 80s. And then, so that's the political section angle. And then the personal angle, the sexual angle is, it really is, in our culture, with its slut-shaming and all the things that we still have, really radical an idea to say that women can have sexual pleasure with orgasm and not have to have babies. And no matter how bad the adult movie may be, and most of them are pretty bad, nobody dies. No woman is arrested because she used a toy. No woman loses her family because she had a threesome. No woman loses her job because she wanted to have sex in, an unusual place. And so the fantasy message in pornography is that sex can be easy, sex doesn't have to involve love and the guy having to pay for everything, and nobody dies. And in Hollywood, especially back then, women characters were not really permitted to cross that line of good girl versus bad girl without something bad happening to them. They had to lose their kids, lose their home, lose their family, lose their job, lose the man, lose their freedom, something, if they were bad girls. And in porn, as stupid as it is, in many ways, it's a cartoon, a fantasy, and nobody dies. So the idea that you can see all these kinds of sexual activities, different races, different ages, different genders, and nobody dies or gets hurt, pretty radical.
Sure.
So I've always supported the right of pornography to exist. I'm also a First Amendment person, and so it is speech, and it is speech about a very important topic, and it deserves to be seen. And people are upset about pornography because, of course, it shows those things, and people would rather not think about them. But pornography is also important because it's where we put our sexual dreams and fantasies, and those are very important to us individually, and I believe collectively.
So with that being said, do you think this kind of argument is ever going to go away? Because a lot of people even still today say, oh, poor girl, she must have had a horrible upbringing and she's stuck in this business being taken advantage of. I mean, is that something we're always going to have to deal with?
I think so, because the Puritan-based, the Protestant-based, or actually the Western religion-based fear and anger about the body and about pleasure is so deeply embedded into our culture and our laws and our attitudes. It's going to take a lot of work to dig them out by root and branch. So I don't know the future of that. On the one hand, we have the internet, people can talk to each other. On the other hand, we have state legislatures passing ever more draconian anti-abortion laws. So that's the 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And also the new hysteria is, of course, conflating all sex commerce with trafficking. And what I really dislike about that argument, first, is it disallows for the fact that many women in adult entertainment and prostitution actually like their jobs. There's that. And what they don't like is police harassment. What they don't like are the laws against it, but they actually like the job. They like what it entails. They enjoy it. And so the anti-porn, anti-trafficking folk would have you believe that no woman could ever enjoy adult entertainment or direct service providing. No, never, never. So there's that. And what really, really upsets me, it's very, very important, is that there are many, many trafficked people and children in the world. Most of it is non-sexual content, so they are trafficked for mainly labor and for war. Of course, when you send young people, vulnerable young people across international lines on somebody else's idea that, I'll get your daughter work as a household maid in a rich place, and that ends up being not only labor servitude, but sexual abuse. So in many trafficking situations that are involved in labor, like farm labor and mill labor in other parts of the world, sexual abuse is also part of it. So the idea that sexual labor is somehow worse than or different than other kinds of forced labor, I think is disingenuous. Again, it highlights our country's particular focus on sex as particularly bad. Forced labor is forced labor. It's bad.
Sure.
To work long hours with, threat of physical violence, death, dismemberment, and those kinds of things. And so they should be anti-trafficking, but sex trafficking. But sex trafficking gets you headlines. Sex trafficking gets you on the news at night. Sex trafficking in this country is about those poor girls, those poor white girls. Oh my God! Oh my goodness! In our suburbs, really? Oh my God! And they keep people frantically focused on a very narrow aspect of the problem, and they refuse to believe. I've been fighting this fight for 30 years, and there's a certain part of the population that refuses to believe that any sane woman would ever choose sexual services as her field of labor. We all got to work. And you sell your body. I don't sell my body. A writer sells his hands. A miner sells his body. Workers sell the labor from their bodies. And so for me, the labor from my vulva is not different than the labor from, hoeing with a short hoe, picking tomatoes. It's still labor. And now, for me, many people, the way our culture, handles sex and modesty and all those kinds of things, when, he touched me, she touched me. We are meant to understand that means touch genitals, the heart of me, the soul of me. Well, sex energy does take us into the soul of ourselves, but by showing you my vulva with something happening to it, I'm not showing you any more of me, Nina, than if I showed you my elbow. Why? Because every female-bodied person has a vulva, and every male-bodied person has penis and a scrotum. There it is. So I can show you my elbow. Am I showing you me? No, I'm showing you my elbow. If I show you my vulva, am I showing you me? No, I'm showing you my vulva. Because that's what you do when you take off your clothes, open your legs. Oh my gosh, there it is! Everybody has one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not so special for me that it bears keeping under wraps all the time.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely. It seems you're very passionate. We were doing some research and everything before this interview. We did happen upon your website, and it says, according to that, you've starred in more than 650 films. Now, is it really that simple?
About 1,000 by now, give or take.
Yeah. So, is it really that you just enjoy it, or I mean, how I would assume even that you would get tired of over the time.
I could not do this 30 years and not enjoy it. I am kinky. I am, a bit of a perv. I like public sex. I like group sex. I like non-traditional sexual expression. I live in a non-traditional, non-monogamous marriage with my husband. So for me personally, sex entertainment or pornography is an extension of my basic philosophy. And I've long said that if I wasn't pretty enough for porn or exhibitionistic enough for a camera, I would be a nurse midwife with a very active social life. I would still be non-monogamous. I would still be queer. I would still be bisexual. I just wouldn't be a professional queer bisexual. I would have a regular job as a nurse midwife, and I'd be teaching about that instead of teaching about sex. Although knowing me, after 15 or 20 years in midwifery, I would probably branch out into sex education because I have a newsflash for you. Sex and babies are related. But the biggest thing, if people really want to learn more about this subject, the listeners can check out a book by Christopher Ryan, Ryan, PhD, called Sex at Dawn, DAWN, Sex at Dawn, and it talks a lot about this. The humans are among the few mammal species that mate just for fun. So in most animals, they mate during mating season, and that's the only time they do it, and the success rate's pretty high. I mean, lots of babies come out. The caribou herd gets bigger, whatever. So most animals have a mating season, and when it's not mating season, you cannot get two animals to copulate. Humans have a very hundreds and hundreds of active intercourse per child, per pregnancy, which is a really unusual metric among the animal kingdom. So for humans, clearly in the way the female sexual response cycle has developed and the way that sex pleasure works on our brains and oxytocin and all those great chemicals that are created by pleasure in our bodies, it's pretty amazing. So clearly and pleasure is so powerful, and pleasure is such a mind-altering experience. It's such a soul-bonding experience. It really is transcendent. So clearly, pleasure, air quotes on the word pleasure, must have had strong evolutionary necessity behind it, because pleasure is a very effective way for building community and bonding people together as a tribe and for fostering closeness among people, a feeling of being in a tribe, being in a family. So, sexual pleasure as a biologically possible thing our bodies can do, and since I believe in evolution that we evolved for, that natural selection selected for the capacity for pleasure, clearly pleasure is really important to human people. And so for me, I think in most cultures, religion constrains pleasure. Every culture has rules about who may have sex with whom, when, for what purpose, for how long, and what circumstances. That's a human-wide thing, because pleasure is powerful, pleasure is important, and we do have to make rules around it. I happen to think that the Western rules are pretty sucky, but they're not as sucky as some places in the fundamentalist Middle East, so I guess we're half and half. But there are plenty of fundamentalist Christians in this country that believe in enforced chastity, and there's a whole, so every culture has its wackos when it comes to sex. But so for me, the political aspect of it and the passion about it, A, I get to talk about sex all day, yay me. B, I get to be around naked people all day, yay me. So I love that about sex, about porn, because instead of having to talk to a person and go on a date with them, and because I'm into girls, and back in the 80s, you couldn't. It's very hard to find women who sleep with women, and lesbians were sleeping with bisexuals. And so for me, lucky me, there was porn, and I got to find swingers were sleeping with women. Swinger women were sleeping with other women too. So porn was a perfect place for me because I got to do what I always wanted to do, and the women would show up and they were already unwrapped. Woo!
Yeah, and you talk about being in about 1,000 films or so, and we know you've done some mainstream stuff, of course, the Boogie Nights and some other things. Is that something you've kind of ever had aspirations to move towards, doing more mainstream films?
Not really. The reason I got into porn, not mainstream, is I wasn't competitive enough, and I wasn't hungry for mainstream, because what I hated about mainstream movies was the fact that they always looked away at the last minute. And if sex is my subject as an artist, if sex is my subject as an activist, if sex is my subject as a health professional, I got to go where the sex is, and in our culture that means porn. So I picked porn not because I picked porn because that's where the naked ladies were.
Sure.
And did you know that porn is full of naked women? It totally rocks, I'm telling you. And then you don't have to go to dinner with them. You don't have to worry about who makes the first move. You talk about it. And on a side note, what can regular people learn from porn people? Well, what regular people can learn from porn people to make their sex lives better is learning how to talk about your needs and your limitations without embarrassment. So when we go to a set, I'm going to do a straight boy-girl, okay? So no anal, no weird stuff, no it gets tied up. We're just, the pizza boy scenario. Hey, pizza boy, hey, or the door-to-door missionary, whatever, pick one. And so when I get to the set, hi, paperwork, get my makeup on. And so I meet with my partner and the director on the actual set, and we figure out how many positions do we want. These days it's about 4 plus oral sex, so 4 positions. And then we look at what's available and run it through the algorithm of how's your back, how's my knee, and then we figure out what positions. And we find out what positions is the guy, what's best for him to continue to go straight to from heavy pistoning action of his hips to orgasm, and so that's the position we'll end on. So then we do the stations of the cross, basically. Somebody moves in this position and somebody moves in that position. But is it a couch? Is it a chair? Is it a desk? Is it a bed? Is it a staircase? We have to figure out where are we doing this and work backwards from that.
Well, we have to ask, it seems like in the business nowadays, and especially with the internet and how everyone has access to, making adult material, there isn't really any, superstars like, yourself and a few of the other ones. So what are your thoughts on that, kind of how it's turned out?
Well, the women the internet did the one thing that Karl Marx would be very happy about, which is it's now put the means of production into the hands of the workers. So every adult performer has their own little video camera, and so instead of being hired by company A or B or C, a lot of us now work very little, and we do what we call content exchange. So we get with other performers, we share our labor, and you take your footage, and I take my footage, and we go away and do whatever we want with it. So if you're an entrepreneurial person, adult entertainment can work, but it's a very, very crowded field because now every girl is camming. So if you want live action girl, just go on to any number of cam sites, pay per minute, and talk to a real live girl of your choosing. All ages, all ethnic types, all body types, all behaviors, all around the world, 24/7. There are several camming platforms. I won't shout them out now. You can look for them if you want. And so if I was a brand new person in adult, I would not quit my day job until I had worked my moonlighting job as a cam girl or a solo girl to its maximum. The old system is pretty much dead. There are many fewer big companies doing what they call feature films that show up in cable TV. I don't know why cable TV and hotels even works anymore because every man's got a damn computer in his pocket. And if you have an internet connection, you don't need the hotel TV anymore, but apparently it's still a thing. The business model's completely changed, and there probably will never be a big star again like Janet Jameson, like Jessie Jane, ever again, because there's no support for it, there's no platform for it, there's no business model for it. The business is now much more decentralized. I mean, most of the production companies are still here in LA, but they're hiring less. because they're shooting less.
Well, as you mentioned, you're still active in the business and 30 plus years in the business, and you're still very passionate about it. Do you have any other projects maybe you have coming up or anything you want to let us know about?
Well, I keep hearing about, Nina, you have to write your memoir. So I'm going to write my agent today and talk to him about potentially, what's the appeal of a memoir. Sex education, sex coaching, sex counseling, ways I can disseminate my expertise and information to people who need it, not for free, but in a more formal coaching or counseling situation. I'm not qualified as a therapist, so I cannot call myself a therapist, but I can certainly call myself a counselor, a coach, or a consultant. And I have a lot to share. So as I get older, I'll probably keep my clothes on and switch over to, instead of me being the object of sexual attention, other people will be the object of my sexual attention. So I always like the idea of helping other people have sex. So I'm interested around it. I'm always like being around it, but I don't have to have it on camera anymore. It's really fine. It can be about the young, pretty people. I'm totally okay with that. And before I go, you can find me not safe for work, Nina.com. You can follow me on Twitter at NinaLand. And if you want something that you can show your mom, they're floating out on the internet a series of videos called Tuesdays with Nina. And it's just me in front of my computer answering questions people have emailed to me. So there's no flying sex toys. There's no dirty talk. I'm not wearing a bikini. I'm just wearing no makeup and clothes. So it's mom approved. So if you find a topic I'm talking about that you can't talk to your parents about, you can say, hey, I found this clip that if you would really watch it, I'd like to talk to you about it later. And they're all under 10 minutes. They're 5 to 7 minutes long. And that's what I put on my nursing hat, because I do have my nursing degree. And so those are good. So Nina.com for Not Safe for Work, and you can look up for Tuesdays with Nina. And I do have a Clips for Sale store on the Clips for Sale store.
Wonderful. Again, Nina, thanks a lot for being on with us today.
My pleasure. You have a great day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.